Hello everyone, and welcome to a midweek coffee break here at AC's 8-Bit Zone. This month is the celebration of SepTandy, and SepTandy is for Tandy of Tandy Radio Shack, or TRS-80. So during the SepTandy event, other retro creators such as myself spend the month celebrating all things Tandy related. So that's what we're doing here today on AC's 8-Bit Zone. The TRS-80 line is one of my favorites. My first childhood computer was the Color Computer 1, or the Coco 1. So I can't wait, and I'm looking so forward to what's coming out this month from all the other channels. So also from this channel, there's going to be several episodes this month and lots of new content on the TRS-80 and Tandy. So kicking off the event of SepTandy, let's get started. So at first I didn't know what I could possibly contribute to SepTandy. And then I thought about this giant collection of Coco computers, software, manuals, and devices and hardware that I have. So what better way to start SepTandy than to pull out all of my Coco collection, open everything, take inventory of what I have. I haven't seen some of this equipment in years. Let's take a good look at what we have here. This was my first ever computer. This is the Coco 1. With a dust cover. And here was the old gray beast itself. I spent many hours on this machine. I spent many hours on this computer. It has the chiclet keyboard. I'm sure that was still working when I boxed it. Some of the keys are a little bit sticky. And it really needs to be cleaned up. But it had a reset switch, a RF modulator output, and that was the only video output option that the Coco 1 had. The channel select button, the cassette. I'll show you my cassette player and recorder in just a moment. Serial I/O, like for printers and other devices, and the joysticks. Here was the power switch, cartridges and disk drives connected through the cartridge port over on the right side. And there was nothing on the left side. So yes, this was a very memorable computer for me. This was my Christmas present when I was in 5th grade. So this computer definitely deserves a good cleaning. And some various manuals. Here's some cool 6809 microprocessor details. The 6809 is the processor, I think, in all 3 Coco machines. And I believe this is EDASM. Yes, this is the assembly editor software. So this is a later part of my collection. I haven't actually used the assembly editor yet, but it was my plans in the late 90s and early 2000s to get into that. And at some point along the way, we moved, everything got boxed up, and this hasn't seen the light of day in years. So this now is the time. Okay, a bunch of old blank discs. Okay, now we're into Color Computer 2. So this was also one of my personal computers. This would have been my second ever computer. Again, many hours spent on this machine. The keyboard was upgraded by the factory, not by me. The keyboard was improved by the factory to this full stroke type of keyboard rather than the chiclets. Okay, again, we have the same limitations on video output options. It's the RF modulator, and that's it. So, you know, here's the official Radio Shack version of the switch from the TV to the back of the computer. So you were forever switching between game and TV, game and TV. And then I have many other Coco IIs. Lots of manuals. I spent so much time in this manual. It's been well used. Just chapter after chapter, I remember going through learning about the basic programming language. And sometime along the way I picked up a slightly newer copy that was in much better shape. Here's the disk operating system. Going ahead with extended color basic. Oh, and to go along with that, I believe it's right over here. Getting started with extended color basic, and then going ahead with extended color basic. More books. All right, fun game. That was a very fun game. I believe that was a disc game. Oh, definitely remember that adventure game, Interbank Incident. All right, cartridge-based game, Dragonfire. Another cartridge game, and another. Downwind. All right, Cyrus Chess. Great, very fun game of chess. Adam, Color Scripts It. I don't remember much about Color Scripts It. You know, the computers were marketed as, you know, not only they're a game machine, because if they were only a game machine, parents would only have bought Atari 2600s for everyone. So these were always marketed as, this is a productivity device, you're going to be so much more organized and create all these wonderful documents. And by the way, and your kids can sometimes play games as reward for all that hard work and going through all the educational software. Here's Tandy home education systems. So these computers were marketed as productivity, and they're going to help you in organization and making lists, and most of the times they just got used for playing games. But many people also learned programming, such as I did. And so the original way to get programs loaded and saved was through the cassette. It has this 6-volt power supply, and the back of the Coco computer, in the back of the Coco, would take the 5-pin DIN, and the 3 little connectors go to the cassette recorder. So here's where you'd make the connection with the cassette player and recorder, and this could be for a printer or another device. And now that brings us to the disk drives. So this was my first disk drive. It was a dual unit, and I don't remember why, but I had this case opened up and one of the drives removed, and I haven't found the drive yet. So there's another box that has some other pieces in it and some more hardware. I think it's going to be found over there. So it's curious, what was I doing? I don't recall. It's been so long. I wonder if this drive works, and this is definitely interesting and possible material for a future episode. And then the MULTI-PAK interface. So this plugs into the side, the right side cartridge port, and expands to up to four cartridges. And there are some limitations when using this, and I can't recall exactly what they were, but I do remember that there was some possible issues and compatibility. But it seems to have a selector switch. I didn't use these when I was a kid, but I acquired this later, and I don't really know much about its day-to-day operation. So that's actually pretty interesting. Maybe we can explore this a little bit and see how this works. Then I have a program that I picked up later in life, and I don't know if I use this or not, Elite Transfer. It comes with a 3.5-inch floppy disk. I would be challenged right now to actually find a computer that's working with a 3.5-inch floppy to load that on. Here is a modem pack. I haven't used this before, but I suppose people were logging on to bulletin boards back in the early days before the internet. Some more Coco IIs back here. I'm not sure if they work. In fact, I may have acquired them and didn't even test them back at the time. I don't even know if they'd power on. Then I have some more cartridges, some OS 9 reference material, blank discs, another floppy drive, although not the missing one because this one is beige and the missing one is a black drive. These were the second generation of joysticks that came out, where the joystick actually returns to the center. To keep the joystick from floating to one direction or the other, you would have to constantly tweak these. Some more software. The label's faded, but I remember these though. They were typed in games that came from magazines. And then some other software that I was working on myself, written in BASIC. Right, lots of backups. So I used my dual drive to back up my discs. And I believe here I must have been working on a cable, and I think this might interface either an external RGB monitor or something. I'll have to figure that out as I set things back up. I'll probably remember what I was doing with that. And Rainbow magazines. These were an endless source of entertainment. So there was a monthly magazine that you could go pick up at Radio Shack. And I remember running through the mall to go straight to Radio Shack as soon as the new issue came out. Many times. And I probably, over the years bought a few dozen, and then later in life, picked up more towards my collection from eBay. More games, software, and cartridges. Some disc, some cartridge. Some of these might even, some of these work on the Atari. This is probably a mixed box. So whereas this is obviously a TRS-80 disc, The Sands of Egypt. Oh, and then actually this is probably a duplicate that I purchased later. I think I see my original Cyrus chess cartridge right over there. Right, yes. Dragonfire was one of my original games. Canyon Climber, Cyrus, definitely. whereas some of these others I picked up later and I may have never used or tried since purchasing them. Okay, and definitely another eBay acquisition. I don't remember these games, although I remember reading about them in the magazines and seeing them over at Radio Shack in many cases. And then that brings us up to the final Coco, the Coco III. This one is actually in box. Here's another one so we can see the back of it. So I guess for the first time ever, so for the first time ever, the color computer was provided a composite video output along with the RF modulator. The other ports were left unchanged, and one more interesting little addition was this RGB output hidden on the bottom of the case. So I don't own the cable that was available at the time, but I'm sure that a cable can be made, and this looks like a little place to put the interface to hide it away, and I suppose a cable would come out of the back for connecting to a monitor such as this, the CM8. I'm sorry, the CM80. Or is the CM8? I'm not exactly sure, but this is a monitor that is compatible with the Coco III. And for the Coco III, there are these 512K memory upgrades. So this one is waiting to be installed, so perfect opportunity during this month. This was sold by Cloud9 in Delano, Minnesota. Does anyone remember Cloud9? I wonder if it's still out there anywhere on the web. And you'll notice a common theme on the TRS-80 line of computers. They all have the AC power cords with built-in AC to DC power supplies. Here's the Coco I. Same with the Coco II. Powered by a two-prong polarized, well, actually this one's non-polarized AC plug. And the cords were attached, so you couldn't replace the cord if it took damage. But it was convenient not having to have all of these DC power supplies lying around. The same is true with the floppy drives. Again, powered by a three-prong AC plug. And I don't know if I mentioned earlier that the disk drives had this cartridge interface with the ribbon cable. And is that perhaps the reason for the 4-port multi-pack that I showed you? You could leave your, could you leave your disk drive plugged in all the time and then insert games and other cartridges without having to disturb that disk drive connection? And you'd probably want to have your modem connected in one of those 4 ports as well. Could you leave the disk drive in the back and a modem, and then have 2 ports left over for switching game cartridges in and out? That might have been a common use for the multi-pack interface. I don't know, because when I was a kid it was a little bit pricey and we just didn't see it as a necessity, so I never got to dabble with the multi-pack interface. And that's most of the collection. I hope you enjoyed that. It really got me excited about the month of SepTandy. So make sure you click on subscribe and choose the bell, and be informed when all the content comes out later this month. I can't wait. I'm so excited about the month of Tandy. So make sure you come along for the ride. Hope you enjoyed this and found it informative. And until next time, see you then.